never, ever, ever be frightened to make a mistake. Because if you're scared of making a mistake, you ain't going to be the best person you're going to be.
Welcome to the Humourology Podcast with me, Paul Boross, and my glittering lineup of guests from the worlds of business, sport and entertainment, who are going to share their wisdom and their use of humour. Humourology is the study of how humour can dramatically improve your business success and your life. Humourology puts the fun into business fundamentals, increases the value of your laughing stock, and puts a punchline back into your bottom line. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. My guest on this edition of the Humourology Podcast is rightly considered a legend in the world of rugby. He comes from a spectacular rugby dynasty that includes Merv the Swerve, the King, and his dad. He excelled at both codes, captained his country, and has been on 2 British Lions tours. Since retiring from rugby, he's been equally successful in the world of media as a hilarious inspirational speaker, author, TV presenter and pundit. Passion, pride, heart and humour are at the core of everything he does. Scott Quinnell, welcome to the Humourology Podcast.
Mr. Boross, good to be here with you. How are you?
Oh, I'm all the better for seeing you, my friend. How are you?
I'm marvellous. I didn't realise I was related to the King. Barry John. Barry John was known as the King, and outside one of the greats. I genuinely got excited then that I was related to the royal family. So I do apologise. So I have a big smile on my face.
I thought it was Elvis, but never mind. It was.
I have no hip movement. Oh no, that's Tom Jones, isn't it? Tom Jones and I have no hip movement. So yeah. Just the outside half, the king.
The King, an absolute king as well.
How are you?
I'm very, very well, and I'm very excited to see you again and speak to you again, because we've worked together over the last 10 years and had so much fun. So when I was doing the Humourology Podcast list, you were always number one, because you've always been fun in every business that we've been involved in.
I am going to watch them all now to see how many people you tell that. I'm going to watch all of them now, and then I'll probably be down. How many? I'll probably be at 15 by the end.
I'm not sure you're going to make it as high as 15, mate, to be honest.
I've only got an attention span for 15.
Sport today is considered to be a serious business. Was there more fun in your day?
I think they still have fun now. You know, you have a look at the boys, and I'm lucky enough I do some work for the Welsh Rugby Union. I do some work in the media, and you see the guys now, and they're having some fun, and you're getting out there, and you're seeing those characters come out, and they still got the funny hairdos, and they're still walking around, they're still playing pranks on each other. There's still there's not so much alcohol taken, I think, in the modern day. As they do, and when we were back, we were playing. It was the humour that really got you through. You know, the amateur times were slightly different because you'd only train maybe on a Tuesday and a Thursday, play on a Saturday. But then when it became professional, you spend more time with each other. Then you really do become more of a family. You work in 6 days a week with each other, and if you don't have some fun, then it's going to be a long old season.
How important do you think the word becoming like a family is for any business, whether that's a sports team or whether that's, you do a lot of corporate work these days to bring them together as a family. How important do you think that is?
I think it's absolutely vital. I think you need a shared common goal to start with. You all need to understand where you're going. You all need to understand what you need to achieve out of that, whether it's a sports franchise, whether it's business, whether you're just working in a small group or a group of 1,000 people. If you don't know where you're all going, then, what's the point in doing what you're doing? I think humour brings a lot into that, especially, if you're together a lot in sport, you'll be travelling a lot. You spend a lot of time in the changing room. I think as a professional athlete, it's not the amount of time you train, it's the amount of time that you get to rest and recuperate and have the wonderful facilities in and around you, the ice baths, the cryotherapy chambers. It's just, that is what it brings. And if you don't have the humour in and around that, there was one guy down with us in the Scarlets, and his name was Ian Boubier, and he was a brilliant open side forward. He was a brilliant man, is a brilliant man, and but he brought the humour to it. Every week somebody would have their trainers or their shoes, or after the game you'd be going to get changed, and your tie and your shoes would be put in the freezer, put in ice bucket, put in the freezer. You come out and there your shoes were, and everybody would have a giggle over that, apart from if they were your shoes. And he would bring quizzes on buses and on aeroplanes, and he would bring the logistical thinking quizzes, and everybody would just have a laugh, and everybody would get engaged, and it was a common thread throughout the squad. But he was the catalyst to that, and I never forget, we were in Italy, and he was following one of the players around, and as he was following one of the players around, it went from week to week to week, and then we went to France, and then we played in, I think, Northampton, and then we went out to Italy the third week out of the European campaign, and he was outside one of the players' rooms, and all you heard was "Bobia!" He'd ripped the last 4 pages out of Sir Alex Ferguson's autobiography. And he'd been waiting for 3 weeks for him to find out that he'd ripped the last 3 pages out, and everybody came out. Everybody had a giggle. The player involved doesn't know what happened to Sir Alex Ferguson to this day. And if I told you his name now, he'd be on the phone and he would kill me. But it was brilliant. It was things like that. It was things like that. It was never forget the likes of Dwayne Peel and Stephen Jones. We used to have life-size characters cut out cardboard in the Millennium Stadium, as it was then. And we were training one day, and they managed to stick the cardboard cutout of Robin McBride in the back of their car. And they lived not too far away, and they left early. The forwards had another session, so we were going home a bit later. And on the roundabout outside Robin's house was Robin's cardboard cutout, dressed up as a woman with a little handbag on his arm. And he came back in the following day. He was absolutely well. He was fuming but laughing as much as he could at the same time. I think one of the best things I ever heard was Mark Jones said that he got back to his base in Australia in 2003, and the boys, again, I presume it was Dwayne Peel and Stephen Jones, because they were the characters at the time. There was a sheep put into his room before they went training. They went training for 4 hours, came back, and the sheep made a little bit of a mess of his bedroom. So, yeah, you need those characters in the team. If you don't have that, then, you have long days.
So what do you think it actually brings to a team? Is it just that it lightens the load, or it gives you a reason to bond? What's the most important thing about humour, about laughter in team situations?
I think the important thing with humour is the fact that when you're struggling, and when the team is struggling, because when things are going well, everybody's buoyant and everybody's happy and everybody's on the cloud nine. It's absolutely brilliant. But when you're struggling, that's the important time. Is when you need somebody just to pick you up, somebody just to say something, somebody just to do something, somebody just to break that silence and say and put everything in perspective. And once you're able to do that, then I think you can you can discuss what's happening and you can get on with it. Until that happens, I think everybody sort of gets down on themselves. I think a lot of the time it's you go back to the old adage: a problem shared is a problem halved. And you can do a lot of that through humour. And I think that people do that a lot through humour. You have a look at some of the great comedians that have been around, people who have struggled maybe with depression, or they've struggled being able to get on stage. It's because humour and becoming somebody else allows them to understand where they were, what was so bad, why they were struggling, and getting on that stage, they become somebody else. And that for an hour, a moment in time, that when you're under a stressful situation, somebody just says one thing could change your mindset and push you in a different direction.
I think that's so true. And, I know that when you're doing your keynote speeches and your after dinners and your inspirational speaking, that you always, make sure that everybody in the team knows that. And when we work together, but you are one of those people who not only says it, you walk the walk and talk the talk at the same time. And that's very unusual for people to be able to do both. And I should tell, we've worked together for a number of years on TV shows and things. And actually, every time we've been together over many series, you have always been the person who has gelled the whole crew and brought them together. How important do you think that is in any team, to have people who bring people together rather than push people apart?
It's vital you all know where you're going, as we said earlier. It's vital that you have a common goal. And through that common goal, I think it's important that you, myself, I do my best, and you can ask other people to do exactly the same. Everybody's going to have different qualities. You've got to understand what qualities people have. I always say to people, it's important to know the people that need a hug or need a coaching with. It's important to know people who need a tap on the shoulder. It's important to know the people that need encouragement. It's important to know the people who need a kick up the backside. It's important to know the people who need to be challenged. It's important to know the people that need to be encouraged in the right direction. Because we're all different. That's the beauty of the human race, is that we're all different. And we all come together. And when you're in a team of 15 playing, but 23 match day, or maybe 35 to 45 in a squad, everybody is totally different. Now, if you treat everybody the same, then you will have lots of different outcomes. You'll have lots of. If you coach somebody, who needs a kick up the backside, they're going to react in a different way to the kick up the backside. So it's important in identifying what people need. It's important as a captain or the coach or as a senior authority in a team environment to understand what those people need. And if you can do that, I think you can grow as a squad, you can grow as a team, and you can grow as an individual as well.
I think it's so right. And one of the things that you and I have talked about in our book, Leader on the Pitch, is also about listening, isn't it? And what you just described there was the ultimate listening. Who needs what? You have to be aware. And I think great leaders are great listeners.
But I think you're exactly right. I think you need to understand what people need around you. But I think what a lot of people don't understand through that, when you talk about a good listener, it's not only hearing what they say, it's seeing how they say it. It's seeing how they do it. It's expressing themselves. In so many businesses and in so many sports, people will say the right thing, but will gesture the wrong thing. I think, you need, if somebody says I'm absolutely fine and walks away with their head down and they're not fine, and then something else is needed, more intervention is needed. If you can do that through a team, an individual, if you can do that through humour, that's how I've always really dealt with things. It's through humour. If you can make somebody laugh, and you can get them on your side, and you can pull a team together with a common goal, and then let every individual, believe they've come up with the game plan in their own different way, then everybody then buys into it. If you go around pointing the finger, tell them, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, it becomes a dictatorship, and then when the shit hits the fan, people walk away.
Brilliant. Levels of listening.
I thought this was about humour. Tell us a joke. Tell us a joke.
But humour is levels of listening, and I think that's a takeaway for our viewers and our listeners. Is that
this is what I love about comedy. This is what I love about humour, is the fact that if you go along to a rugby game and you get involved in the rugby game, and there's 72,500 people get involved in the rugby game, the noise is incredible. The noise is just absolutely wonderful. And that noise pushes that individual, the team, to success. And it's a huge part of it. We're seeing that now with COVID-19. We're seeing that now, down AFL games and NFL games. And we're seeing that in cricket now. We're seeing that in football, where the crowd plays a huge part. It's not there. It's not quite the same. And we see that when you go to a music festival or you go to a gig, when I watched Coldplay a couple of years ago, one of the greatest gigs that I've been to, but it was all about movement. It was all about the flashing bands. It was all about the brilliant. It was all about the singing along. It was all about the passion. It was all about the moment, the being in the moment. He said, Chris Martin, put your phone down, just be in the moment. Now, if you did that when you went to see a comedy gig, it wouldn't work. If you're seeing the brilliant Lee Evans standing on stage for an hour and a half, 2 hours, if you joked along with him, it's a different environment. It's a different humour altogether. That's called heckling. So I think that's why when you talk about humour, you talk about it's the ability to be able to listen. To be able to sit 20,000 people down on their backsides, and for them not to say anything for 2 hours, I think is the biggest skill of the lot.
What makes you laugh? You just mentioned Lee Evans, who also Alistair McGowan on our show mentioned as one of his favourites. Who else makes you laugh?
Billy Connolly. Just, growing up... just watching Billy Connolly, and the one thing I love about Billy Connolly is that when he gets on stage, you almost feel as if that routine was the first time he's ever done that routine, because he puts a lot of things about the local. When he did the trip around the world, and when he did those, there was always something about the local community. There was always something, but there was probably the local community in every community, but it meant so much to the people that were there, because he engaged them. He made them feel a part of the show. And if you can make those people feel a part of the show, and you can still say the things that you want to say, and it probably wasn't the same routine every night, then it keeps it fresh for him, it keeps it fresh for the audience, and they both have a fantastic time. Billy Connolly, sort of Lee Evans, these type of guys, almost as if you're in their front room, listening to them have a beer and just regale tales. That, for me, is, I think, absolute class.
Tell me a true funny story about something that's happened to you.
Well, we're talking about music festivals, right? Every time I go to a music festival, I end up in the comedy tent, because it's where you sort of gravitate to, sort of 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. The comedians come on, you've had a few sherbets, and it's absolutely brilliant. You could go to the same gig every night for a week, and you probably think you've seen it for the first time. And I never forget, I was with my kids and my wife, Nick, Sam, Lucy and Steve were with us in the Green Man Festival. And we had such a good night. I think it was a Friday night. We had such a good night. Oh, it was brilliant. We were there. Ellis James, Mitchum was on. He was playing the piano, playing his songs, and the comedy was just till about 2 o'clock in the morning. Everybody was just in stitches. And then on the following day, I'm having a bit of food, and my daughter Lucy, she comes over. She said, "Dad," I said, "What's the matter, darling?" She said, "Dad," she said, "I went to the comedy tent just now," she said, "and that's all the guy talked about was his book. It was shit." I said, "Darling, what do you want about?" She said, well, I just come from the comedy tent. He was hopeless. That's all he talked about was writing a book. I said, darling, the comedy tent doesn't start till 9:30. It's a literary tent in the day. And she went, oh, that will explain it then. It wasn't a bad book. And I sat there and I thought, that's just brilliant. That is just brilliant. I got to figure that routine. I got to put that routine into my after dinner because I almost spat the pie out, but as you can see, I didn't.
Do you think everyone is funny?
I think everybody has the capability of being funny. I do. I've got a couple of friends who think they're funny and aren't. But because of that, they're funny. I think is the truth of it. I think a lot of people are quite funny, but can't tell stories. I think you get, there's a couple of people that I won't mention now because they live in my house, and the story is brilliant, and what they're trying to say is brilliant, but doesn't always come across. So I get them, write it down, and I pinch them. So it's quite good. It's quite good. So I think everybody has the ability to be funny, and I think humour is what unites the world. I think in that respect. I think sort of music. I think sport. I think comedy is the one common denominator that will always bring us together.
Well, on the back of that, what would the world be like without humour?
The problem we've got, you see, is we're getting quite deep here, is that we don't know any different. So I think that because we don't know any different, we'll sit down on Thursday or Friday night and we watch Mock the Week, and we will watch Have I Got News For You, and we watch QI, and we will just lap it up. If they weren't on, what else would we be doing? I think that is the thing, because humour has always been a part of our lives, and whenever we sit down and we sit down and we have a glass of wine and we have some food, I think we just try to make each other laugh, and because we try to make each other laugh, we've got a common goal in that respect. I couldn't imagine not having humour in my life because it'd be just boring, wouldn't it? I genuinely could not imagine it. And of course everybody's humour is different. That's what I love. People talk about to me, they love country music, or they love R&B, or they like house, or they like grunge, or they like pop, or they like 70s, or they like 80s. What's wrong with people that like 80s music? Of course, unless they're watching you. Then it's and comedy's the same. Comedy is exactly the same. You know what I mean? Nobody would like every comedian. You find the one that tickles your funny bone, and you go with it.
Yeah, so it gets to people's heart. There is something in us, which is how come we love funny people so much? Because we put them on a pedestal, don't we? Why is that always true around the world?
Because it takes you to a different place. It takes you to a different place. It allows you to forget about the everyday woes, as they say, and just be put into a different place, a different mindset. It'll change your mood. It'll change the endorphins that you have in your body. It will give you the ability to be able to. They say that laughing, makes you happy, puts you in a different mood. If you get up in the morning and you're grumpy, you'll be grumpy for the rest of the day. If you get up and you smile, you'll be happy for the rest of the day. And I think that's wonderful, who's it? Are you Are you Mickey Flanagan, isn't it? And honestly, my wife has watched Mickey Flanagan live probably 30 times. And every time you get something slightly different from it. But you see all your mates, and if I form a mate up, I go, "Are you coming out?" He goes, "Are you at? Are you at?" And you just say, that's just amazing. that's just amazing. That is how comedy works. And Eddie Murphy, when he did the routine about dropping the ice cream. I got an ice cream. I got it. He drops it. Oh, and people are still singing that. And if somebody drops an ice cream, that's the first thing I think of. Is that so? It's just those wonderful, wonderful moments in your life, and the genius that these people have is just incredible, absolutely incredible.
Do you find yourself funny?
My children and my wife say yes, because I say something and I laugh, or even worse, I will laugh and then say something. So I got to be honest with you, if I did a gig and there was 30 of me in the audience, I'd be happy. I think I'd be all right. I think I'd be all right.
Well, the funny thing is, I think that's the perfect answer, because as a psychologist, what I would say is that part of a comedian's job is to actually, or anybody who wants to be funny, wants to be liked, wants to have people laugh with them, is that they have to go into that state first. And that state transfers over to other people, because, I've always said that you're infectious, haven't I?
Well, and I've given you tablets for it. But the thing is, when you talk about that, right, I think I'm more likely to laugh at myself. A lot of people they're perfectionists and they want to do everything right. But I'm kind of the opposite, because I don't mind making mistakes, because a lot of the time it's quite funny. So I'm in the mindset of, because I struggled, because we'll go back, because I was dyslexic and struggled to read and write and everything, I suppose that's my coping strategy. So where, you either fought or you became funny. Now, I'm not that funny, and I'm a bloody good fighter. So, you choose.
I think I'd rather laugh with you than fight you, to be honest with you.
I think it's important to be able to laugh at yourself. If you can't laugh at yourself, then you can't take the mickey out of other people. If you're in a room of people and you take something personally that they say, then it's all wrong. You've got to be able to laugh at yourself before you expect other people to laugh at you.
Do you think that's a big mistake that leaders in business don't get? Because I work in big companies and with CEOs, and you sometimes find those leaders who want to be taken seriously at all times, and they leave no room for anybody to humanize them, if you like. Do you think that's a big mistake?
I think it is. I think you've got to have a balance. If you're leading an organisation or you're leading a group of people, if you're captain in Wales, it can't all just be a joke. You've got to have 90% serious, and then 10% of it then has got to be, you've got to find humour in some sort of it. If you're running a big organisation, you've got to be able to make sure that you get your work done, and you've got to get it done in a process, in a way. But I think if you add the humour to it, I think it certainly adds value to you and to your team. It certainly adds value to the business. It adds value to the core if you can add humour to it. I think that's the vital thing, the fact that, you can't just go in there. Because if you take yourself seriously 24/7, then, there's not going to be much else in your life, really, to be able to hold on to. And when things don't quite go right, then, that seriousness then certainly becomes a darker place to be in, I think. I've worked with some brilliant CEOs over the years where they really, really, really do. I've worked with people that have been on stage and I've come on dressed up in fancy dress costume just to make 2,000 of their employees laugh. Because if your CEO can walk on with a funny costume and make people laugh, then, you take him seriously because he wouldn't be in that position in the first place. But he's got a human side to him as well. And I think that is vital in bringing people together.
So do you think people laugh enough at the workplace? Or is it, it feels like work's over here, fun's after work? Do you think there should be more laughter in the workplace?
It's very difficult to answer that, Paul, because I've always worked in an environment where we've had fun. So working for myself for long periods of time, and we've got a candle business now, and I do a lot of motivational speaking. I do a lot of after dinner speaking. I work at the union. I work for Sky for years. I now do some radio. I do some presenting on television. If I wasn't having a laugh in those situations, I probably wouldn't be doing the job. So for me, it's very important. For me, I need to feel comfortable. I need to feel good around the people. I've always said it's nice to work with nice people. And if you can do that and you can find humour through that, then it's wonderful. I don't think I would last long in an organisation if it was too serious.
So what advice would you give to people who are in offices, so who are leading groups? I mean, how do you think they can, apart from, inviting you in to speak to their teams and giving them the energy and the laughs that are involved in that, how else do you think you can get humour into everyday life at work?
I think it's a lot of it is down to the individuals. I think a lot of it is down to putting the right people in the right places. I think if you get the right team in and you get the right balance of the right team, then I think it's a lot easier to work with those people around you. You need to have the skill set that you need to do the job, and then you need to have the balance of bringing people together. You need to have somebody who's maybe really, really serious, and then somebody who's not quite so serious to bring the team together. That gel. Some of the most incredible minds and some of the funniest people that I've seen are surgeons. I've got a friend who's a neurosurgeon, and he is one of the funniest guys that you'll ever see. Quite dark humour. But if they don't have that, then if you work and you have a look at what we've been through at the moment, you have a look at the frontline nurses and doctors and porters and cleaning staff and everybody in hospitals, if they don't have a sense of humour in what they do and camaraderie as a team and a togetherness, they would not have got us through this. They would not be getting us through this because it's a dark place. It's a different front line that they've ever experienced before. It's a different front line that we've ever experienced before, and a lot of that is a team coming together through humour. And if they can do that, then I think it's a very, very special place to be as well.
I think you're completely right. And one of the questions that I ask a lot of people, especially business people who are on this podcast, billionaires and CEOs who are on the podcast, is how do you make a business?
What am I doing here then?
Well, you told me I would get $1 billion if I had you on.
I thought so it's yin and yang, is it? It's yin and yang, and I'm yang. I'm not billionaire Ying. I'm not
billion Yanging.
Yangy.
Yeah. Yes, but I always say, what's the business case for having more humour at work? And I think you've just come up with one of the ideal things in the business case is camaraderie. It engenders camaraderie, and guess what? If you have people who feel like they are together as a unit, they're more likely to push you forward and give you more for your business. Do you think that's true?
Absolutely, and I think we've seen that. I was lucky enough myself at Carol Borden when we did the Great Indoors on BBC One Wales for 8 weeks through the lockdown. And people were sending us in videos of them dancing, doing TikToks. They were sending us videos young children. Sort of, there was Rocco, one boy. Rocco, he was brilliant. He did Shane Williams scoring a try, and then he did Dan Bigger doing a kick, and then on Twitter yesterday he was doing Jamie Roberts, and you just think it's just wonderful that humour brings a smile to everybody's face. We've seen nurses and doctors do music. We've seen them dancing in the corridors during their break time to break that heaviness that they have got to do day in, day out of saving these, the lives that they are on the front line. And if you don't have that, and you don't have that doubt, you don't have that outlet to be able to get the frustrations out, get some humour back in, to be able to go and cope and do another shift, to go and be able to go and put a smile on somebody else's face. Because a lot of the time they don't feel like doing the job themselves. They've been in frightening positions, and if they can't put the sort of brave smile on their face, then who's going to, And I think that's the biggest thing. When you talk about camaraderie, and you talk about, playing sport, and you talk about, health workers on the front line, and you talk about people who are running billion-pound businesses, then when the shit hits the fan, or when you're in a place that nobody wants to be, then you have got to then become somebody else. And by doing that, you can sometimes do that through humour. You can do that like the great Stephen Fry has said before. When he walks on stage, he becomes somebody else for that hour. And when he comes off stage again, he can sometimes, go in and have some mental health issues, and it's the ability to be able to do that. And hopefully through humour and through people, through camaraderie, people around you will know who needs that coach, or who needs a kick up the bum, or who needs that how can I help you, or needs that challenge to be able to push you forward and through the other side.
So I completely agree, and I think that's really interesting from a business case, is that if you encourage, I know in sport that they encourage teams to go out and celebrate together and bond together and everything. If you encourage that, there is a real return on investment. You can...
Absolutely. If you bring people together, and you bring people together in the right way, and you take them out, and the 1997 Lions tour, we did team bonding things, and 2001 Graham Henry turned us into a maraca marching band. I think I was playing. The only thing I could play was.
Do you mean a mariachi? You mean a mariachi marching band?
What did I say?
You said maraca, but.
I was playing maracas. Right, so we were both right, and but something like that took you out of your comfort zone. Something totally different, took your mind out from the fact that we're going to play a British and Irish Lions tour in South Africa, in Australia, or go down to New Zealand, and brings you together. A couple of beers bring you together, good coffee bring you together, the fact that you stand up. But in all this, I think finding out where you want to go, whether it's as a sporting franchise, whether it's a business, whether it's in your personal life, you got to know where you want to go, because if you don't know where you're going, how the hell are you going to get there?
So true, so true. Have you ever taken a joke too far? Well, I think we both know the answer to that one, don't we?
Yeah, well, what's too far? What is too far?
Well, crossing the line. I mean, anything.
I got my own spray paint just in case. You're gonna put another line in the sand. Yeah. But how do you learn? If you're a comedian, you go on tour to find out where the line is. And I think, sometimes you say something and the audience go, Ooh. Sometimes the unknown and perhaps sometimes over the line is a place you need to be. So who knows until you've been there.
I've always said that comedians naturally have to push the line. And the interesting thing I've always said about you is you have all the instincts of a comedian. Because you will push things far. You will naturally do things that comedians call callback, which is, referring to something. You have natural funny bones. Was that always there? I mean, was the 7-year-old Scott Quinnell naturally funny?
Because I got a poor memory, I don't know. I'm like a goldfish. You go sort of keep on going around the bowl. Oh, I've seen that before. I can't. Can I phone a friend? Can I phone a friend? I think it's one of those situations. I don't think when I was younger I was very, very quiet. I was quite insular. I wasn't a guy. I wasn't the young kid who wanted to go to parties. My mother would drop me off at the door of my friend's party, and I would run back in the car and I'd go home. I'm quite a loner. I like travelling by myself. It's one of those situations where sort of you got to when you play sport, you got to become somebody else. When you sometimes when you stand up on stage, I wouldn't say half the things I say on stage as myself. I wouldn't have the confidence to be able to do it. You put a mic in my hand, then it sort of changes a little bit. I wouldn't like to be around myself all the time. That guy on stage. It's that ability to be able to go out and just be somebody else for an hour and a half, and but have the core value. The core values are always there. The core values of wanting to help people. The core values of wanting to be the best you can be, not taking myself too serious. The core values of trying to help people, and if you can put all that into one basket. That when I played rugby, it took me 24 hours to become Scott Quinnell, the rugby player. Because if I did what I did on a rugby field in a supermarket, I'd be arrested. It was I'd been retired 2 years, and I tried to plough through the bakery aisle, and they weren't happy. I got to be honest with you. I handed 2 people off and scored a try with a baguette in the corner, and I thought it was a fantastic try myself, but no, I was kicked out.
But that's really interesting in the sense that you are becoming somebody else. And actually, I think for people viewing this or listening to this, it is possible to take on a new coat and put on a new coat and become somebody else. You can learn to be a leader. You can learn to be funnier. You can learn to have new skill sets. You've just really encapsulated, I've known you for years, and you've always been quick, funny, witty, charming. But you're saying, actually, I had to put that on to an extent, and then it becomes part of your personality. So how did you do that?
You learn to do it. You learn. Could you imagine when you were 10, 15, 20, 25 even, of standing up in front of a room of 2,000 people and somebody saying to you, go make them laugh, go make them smile. You couldn't do it, could you? You just couldn't do it. And then, I remember I retired at 32 and I did my first after dinner speech, and my wife, I did my first after dinner speech, and I thought it went quite okay, and my wife said, "Oh, that was good," and I said, "Yeah, but it didn't, And then my wife saw me 2 years later, and she said, "Oh my God," she said, "you've improved." I said, "Well, I've done 200 since then." And I think the more you do, the more confidence you get out of it. But I come back to that thing that we talked about earlier. Never, ever, ever be frightened to make a mistake. Because if you're scared of making a mistake, you ain't going to be the best person you're going to be. And, you know, the more mistakes you make, then I think the better you actually become.
But you see, I completely agree, but I think that's bravery. In a sense, it's like being brave enough to put yourself out there. All the people on this podcast have reached a very high level in different areas of the world. That could be in business, that could be in sport, that could be in entertainment. But actually, the one thing everybody understands is humour is the key to that, but also bravery. Being brave enough to make a joke of it, being brave enough to laugh at yourself, being brave enough to push the boundaries, to push yourself out of your own comfort zone. And that's a big part of humour, isn't it? Giving it a go, being brave enough. In your case, standing up on stage when you're 32. Brave.
I would rather face the England 99, 2001, 2003 pack, the New Zealand All Black pack, than stand up in front of somebody when I was 32. I would have taken the whole pack off myself rather than stand up in a group of 10 people. Now, if the pack turned left into the change room, I'm grabbing the mic and going to talk to 30,000 people. You know what I mean? Oh no, you know. I think you know. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and you've got to have the ability to be able not to take yourself too seriously and get up there and try new things and find out things that work and use those things that work and put a smile on people's face, and you need to have the ability to laugh things off when things don't go right. You know what I mean? That's almost, you know, a contradiction in terms, but you know, it's just the best feeling in the world. You know, if you stand on stage and there's 5,000 people laugh at something that you've just said, it's no, you know, you can win. You can win a game of rugby. You can score a try. But for that moment, the endorphins and the ability to be able to stand there and just think, oh, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Doesn't happen very often, but you know.
Well, by the way, when we're doing our trainings, or I'm seeing you on stage doing your inspirational talks, it happens all the time. But why does it happen all the time? Because you've worked at it. And that's what I would say to everybody listening to this who wants to get better in business, is actually there's a great case in point. Somebody who excelled at one thing and then managed to take that and excel at another thing in media. Why has that happened? Because you were brave enough to try. And I think it's a short life. If you don't try these things, if you aren't brave, you're never going to know. I mean, the amount of people, you know, you and I, when we've trained people to public speak and everything, it's that public speaking is the number one fear in the world. Death is number 6. I mean, it's that ridiculous.
Dying on stage must be the worst thing ever, then.
Well, neither of us would know.
Oh, no. I've never walked off early. I persist in going on. But it's one of those things, right, where I was a rugby player. I started playing rugby at 8 and I finished at 32. Now I'm 47 and that's what I've done. People sort of say, oh, hey, Flip, hey, after rugby, I finished 15 years ago. And, you know, it does take work. And I say to the guys that are coming out now, you know, and they sort of go, Scott, you know, how can you stand up there and do that? I said, well, it takes time. It takes work. And you have your knockbacks, but you go, and then eventually, you know, you thrive on it. And I think that's the most important thing, is if you love what you do, then I think it shows as well.
Have you ever gotten yourself out of trouble, maybe on the pitch, maybe off the pitch, by using humour?
Yeah, I'm quite lucky because I don't really get myself in that much trouble. So I'm a bit of a home bird, and I like my home. I like the family. I like the dogs, and so yeah. On the pitch, honestly, if Martin Johnson run over to me and he was going to clock me one, I wouldn't go knock knock. You know what I mean? Yeah, I wouldn't be doing that. Probably there'd be a bit of fisticuffs in that scenario. I wouldn't be telling jokes on the field, but definitely, it's a coping strategy. And if you can diffuse situations, we've done it in a School of Hard Knocks. We've done it on training pitches, and we've done it where if things do tend to get a little bit, right, that's it. I'm gonna, and you sort of go, hey, please. So calm and collected, absolutely fine. We'll sort this out, no problem at all. Make one of them laugh. All of a sudden, they've forgotten what they were doing in the first place. So yes, of course, it's a tactic. It's a tactic that you can use in life. It's a tactic that you can use in sport, in business. It's distraction, and if you can use distraction like that, then I think humour is the best policy for doing it.
Well, that's 100% right. And from a psychological point of view, it's state change. If you want to change anybody's state, well, you can get them angry. Or if you make them laugh, it will go much better for you. Did you want an angry Martin Johnson or a laughing Martin Johnson in front of you?
Oh, I tickle him every time I see him now.
In business, as in sport, is it the survival of the fittest or the survival of the funniest?
I think when you have a look at that, I think it's a measure of both. I think, it's a measure of the fittest on the field, whether that's in a boardroom, whether you're really good at the job that you do, whether, but I think if you accentuate people if you have a bit of humour as well. I think that's the most important thing. I think if you're in a boardroom and you can make other people laugh, if you're in an office and you can make people laugh, if you're on the rugby field and you can make people laugh, then I think you accentuate all the other attributes that you can bring to an organisation. I think that's the most important thing, is the fact that you can tell a little joke, or you can have a little joke, or you can play a little joke, or you can do that in around the team environment, in around the business environment, which is absolutely brilliant. And if you do that, I think you elevate the team to another level.
So in business, it is the survival of the funniest, because that is the ultimate level.
I think if you go into a business, you go into a team environment, if you are at the exact same level as the person that you are going against, and you can bring a little bit more humour, you can bring a little bit more to the party, as they say, I think you're in with a better chance of landing the job.
We're now going to go to the section of the podcast. We've got a section.
I thought I read a tingle.
We're going to the section of the podcast which we like to call Quickfire Questions. We always say that like we're going to have a jingle, but we haven't got one. Who is the funniest business person you've met?
Funniest business person? Oh, there was a guy, Mark Douglas, actually. I was doing some stuff in NatWest, and he always started any meeting with a joke. And it was a very good joke half the time, but it just absolutely settled the room, and he had him in the hand after all that.
What book makes you laugh?
I have a toilet book. It's 1,001 jokes. And I've got 2 volumes of it, so that's 2,000 jokes. And I can't remember any of them. It's one of those where you go, and this is the goldfish syndrome again. Every time I go and I read it, I go, I go downstairs and I've forgotten all about it.
What film makes you laugh?
What film makes me laugh? Step Brothers. I love Step Brothers.
What word makes you laugh? It's okay, it's a podcast, you can say it. I saw you just say, I can't say that in your own head.
No, it's not, because I can really say it, because it's poo. And you just think, you know, all the words you can choose from, you know, it's just poo. I don't know why. That is just, you know, I never say it myself. So when somebody says it, I just think, oh, fucking prude. Just poo.
Okay, on a serious note, what's not funny?
I don't know. You can make anything funny, can you? Is there anything not funny? What's not funny for you?
Well, there's things I don't find funny, but I always say that you should be able to find a way into it. I mean, I don't like disabled jokes, for instance. I just don't like them. But then, you know, if, you know, one of the comedians on The Last Leg is doing a joke about that, then I can find it funny. So context.
Well, the thing is, right, you say that. My mate, Mike the Pirate, who I play golf with 3 times a week, right? Mike the Pirate has only got one leg. And if he beats me, I always tell him on the 18th, it's okay for you. I've got 2 bad knees. So, I don't know.
So, everything is funny in the right context.
I don't think everything's funny, but I think you can find the humour in most things.
Would you rather be considered clever or funny?
Oh shit! I'm never going to be clever, so it's got to be funny. No. So I've got a doctorate from MMU, and I've got a Chancellor's Award from Cardiff Metropolitan University. Right? I've only ever been to university for 2 half days, and that's only because I was quite funny. So I don't know.
Well, no, it stands to reason. Desert island gags is our final thing. If you were on a desert island and you could only take one joke with you, what would it be?
Am I on my own?
Yes.
Who am I going to tell it to?
Well, remember, you've got a goldfish memory, so you're going to find it funny every day.
Oh, that's true. Catalina wine mixer! That was the one I was thinking of earlier. See, I told you I had a short-term memory. Right, my joke. I go ones I can't tell, I go ones I can tell. 3 balloons. Mommy balloon, daddy balloon, baby balloon. All sleeping in the bed. And daddy balloon says one day, right, baby balloon, we're all getting a little bit too big now. You're puffing up. You're getting bigger. He said, you're going to have to go and sleep in your own room. And baby balloon wasn't happy about it. But he went and slept in his own room. Now, baby balloon was quite an intelligent balloon. So he got up halfway through the night and said, if I leave a little bit of air out to daddy balloon, and I leave a little bit of air out to mommy balloon, and I take a little bit of air out of me, we'll all fit in the bed really, really nice. And in the morning, daddy balloon wakes up and he looks at mommy balloon, he looks at baby balloon, and he says to baby balloon, now baby balloon, I'm not very happy. You've let me down, you've let your mother down, but more importantly, you've let yourself down.
And that will keep you entertained on the desert island for years on end.
Carolina wine mixer!
Scott Quinnell, thank you so much for being my guest on the Humourology Podcast. It's always a blast.
Pleasure.
The Humourology Podcast was hosted by Paul Boross and produced by Simon Banks. Music by Steve Hayworth, creative direction by Les Hughes, and additional research by Helen Sykes. Please remember to subscribe, like, and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. This has been a Big Sky production.